Today, I have a story selected that's called The Blinding of Truth by Falsehood. And usually in Egyptian mythology and Egyptian stories, truth is represented by the goddess Mot because, she's the goddess of truth and of peace, ending the reign of chaos. In this allegorical tale, truth is conceived of as a male who was blinded by his brother Falsehood's behest because of circumstances not quite clear within this story. The beginning of it is rather fragmented, the middle is done well, but the concluding sentence is also fragmentary. So I'll have to take a few pauses in the beginning and then a couple at the end, but otherwise it should be pretty smooth reading. And thus it begins. Blank and blank went blank, the Ennead blank blank, a copper dagger of which the mountain of A forms the blade, of which the woods of Coptos form the haft, of which the god's tomb forms the scabbard, and of which the herds of Kal form the belt. Falsehood here, taking a side note, Falsehood here has apparently been lent a dagger for which he gives fantastic dimensions to Truth, who had either damaged or mislaid. Falsehood said to the Ennead, "Let Truth be brought and blinded in both his eyes, and be assigned to be doorkeeper of my house." The Ennead then acquiesced to all that he had said. After many days following this, Falsehood raised his eyes to have a look, and he observed the exemplariness of Truth, his elder brother. Falsehood said to Truth's two servants, "Please abduct your lord, and cast him to a dangerous lion that has many lionesses as mates, and they shall devour him." The servants then abducted him. Now as they were going up, carrying him, Truth told his servants, "Don't abduct me, and put another in my place. Blank. One of you go to town, and find a bit of bread for me. Blank." So the servant went, that he might tell Falsehood when we cast him to the lion. Blank. And he went out from the house, and he called him in the blank. Now, after many days following this, the Lady N, whose name is lost in all occurrences, went out from her house with the following, clad blank, and they saw him lying under the cover, and saw that he was so handsome that there was none like him in the entire land. Then they went to where the Lady N was, and said, "Come along with us, that you may see the blind man lying under the covert, and he shall be brought and assigned to be doorkeeper of our house." The Lady N said to her maidservant, "You shall go to fetch him, that I may see him." And she went and fetched him. Then the Lady N saw him, and she desired him exceedingly when she saw how handsome he was in all his body. So he went to bed with her in the night, and he had sexual intercourse with her. So she became pregnant that night with a baby boy. Now after many days following this, she gave birth to a son whose like did not exist in this entire land, for he was larger in blank than a blank being in the nature of a younger god. And he was sent to school and mastered writing very well, and he practiced all the arts of war so that he even surpassed his older schoolmates who were at school with him. His schoolmates said to him, "Whose son are you? You don't have a father." And they would revile him and mock him. "Truly, you do not have a father." The boy said to his mother, "What is my father's name, that I may tell it to my schoolmates? Truly, if they converse with me, 'Where is your father?' they always say to me, and they mock me." His mother said to him, "Do you see that blind man who is seated next to the door? That is your father." So she said, telling him. Then he said to her, "The members of your family ought to be gathered together and be made to summon a crocodile." Which is, crocodiles were very commonly known as killers in ancient Egypt because, they're pretty dangerous. So basically what the boy is suggesting here is that his mother be put to death by crocodile for her reviled actions. And so the boy brought his father and had him sit down with an armchair supporting him, and he put a footstool under his feet. And he placed food before him and let him eat and drink. The boy said to his father, "Who is it that blinded you, so that I may avenge you?" And he told him it was my younger brother who blinded me. And he told him all that had happened to him. So he set out to avenge his father, taking along 10 loaves, a staff, a pair of sandals, a water skin, and a sword. And he fetched an ox of very beautiful appearance, and went to where Falsehood's herdsman was. He said to him, "Please take for yourself these 10 loaves, as well as this staff, this water skin, this sword, and this pair of sandals, and tend this ox for me until I return from town." After many days following this, his ox had completed the many months in the charge of Falsehood's herdsman. Then Falsehood went off to the fields to inspect his cattle, and saw that that ox belonging to the boy was exceedingly beautiful in appearance. He said to his herdsman, "Give me that ox that I may eat it." But the herdsman told him, "It isn't mine, so I won't be able to give it to you." Falsehood said to him, "See, all my cattle are at your disposition. Give one of them to its owner." The boy learned that Falsehood had appropriated his ox, and he came to where Falsehood's herdsman was, and said to him, "Where is my ox? I can't see it among your cattle." Said the herdsman to him, "All the cattle are at your disposition. Take for yourself the one you want." Then the boy said to him, "Is there an ox as large as my own ox? If it should stand on the island of Ammon, the tip of its tail would be lying upon the papyrus marshes, while one of its horns would be on the western mountain, and the other on the eastern mountain, and the great river would be its spot for laying down, and 60 cows would be born to it daily." The herdsman said to him, "Is there an ox as large as the one you have just mentioned?" So the boy seized hold of him and took him off to where Falsehood was, and he took Falsehood to the tribunal before the Ennead. They said to the boy, "What you have said is false. We have never seen an ox as large as the one you've mentioned." Said the boy to the Ennead, "Is there a copper dagger as large as the one you did mention, of which the mountains of El forms the blade of, which the woods of Coptis form the haft, of which the god's tomb forms the scabbard, and of which the herds of Cal form the belt?" Now, if you remember this was in the first paragraph of the story, the one that was really fragmented. It goes blank and blank went blank the Ennead, "A copper dagger of which the mountain of El forms the blade, of which the woods of Copris form the haft, of which the gods' tombs form the scabbard, of which the herds of Cal form the belt." So we saw that at the beginning, and now it's being referenced again. He told the Ennead, "Judge between truth and falsehood. I am his son, truth's son. It is in order to avenge him that I have come." Then Falsehood took an oath by the Lord, saying, "By Ammon and by the ruler, if truth be found alive, I shall be blinded in both my eyes, and be assigned to be doorkeeper in the house of truth." Then the boy had his father brought to the tribunal before the Ennead, and it was verified that he was still alive. So severe punishment was inflicted upon Falsehood. He was smitten with 100 blows and 5 open wounds, blinded in both his eyes, and assigned to be doorkeeper in the house of truth. And he, blank. And so the boy avenged his father, so that the dispute between truth and falsehood was settled, blank, the blank. Thus it concludes happily and successfully. And there is the fragmentary ending to that story. It's not a particularly special story, but of course it does show that representation of truth and falsehood that Egyptians were genuinely interested in, especially with their worship of Ma'at, or Mayet, and then Set, who was like a representation of chaos. So yeah, I like that story, because it puts some of their morals into the limelight, I think. Okay. Good night, Shred.